This here is an example of an iteration burn down chart. The burn down chart is a graph posted in a public location. It's visible to all, and it shows the progress of the current sprint. So the burn down chart here shows time. On the horizontal axis, we have a 5-day sprint. And on the vertical axis, we have the number of story points, the amount of work that needs to be done. And then you have this ideal burn down line. This shows that if you started with this much work to do and you did the same amount of work each day, you'd be able to finish at the end of the sprint. Now, the real progress rarely matches the ideal guideline, but it should show steady progress. So here in Sprint 2, we started out with our work and we had pretty steady burn down. We had a little bit of a slow start, but we caught up and we ended up completing all our story points. But sometimes these blockages will stay. Like if we look at Sprint 3 here, we can see we stayed blocked for a while. That was probably due to this blockage. This user story got blocked. We couldn't complete it. We still have 8 story points here, so we didn't get all our user stories done. We didn't get those 2 story points. So you can see here's the ideal burn down line, and we really didn't follow it very well. We did recover fairly well, but we didn't finish our user stories. And then sometimes you'll get a strange burn down chart because of some other things you're doing. Like if we go to Sprint 4, and this is the current sprint we're in, and we're doing a pretty good job on our burn down, but then we had this spike. So lots of times if you have a spike, you'll get a flat rate for a while. And the reason is because a spike has no story points. Remember, spikes are used to investigate areas of uncertainty. They do not add functionality to the product increment, so they're not going to have any story points. And your burn down chart is not going to show work getting done when you have a spike. So lots of times it'll look like you're not doing any work even though you are. Now, normally the dev team is responsible for updating the burn down chart. Sometimes the Scrum Master does it. It's something that your team's going to have to decide. And as tasks are completed, the burn down chart is updated, so it always reflects how the team is performing during the sprint. An up-to-date burn down chart is a great tool to use during the daily Scrum. If the burn down chart is not moving down, then it's a good indication there's a blockage that the Scrum Master needs to be aware of so it can be worked. So at any point in time, the burn down chart is going to show at a glance the initial amount of work taken on by the team in the sprint planning meeting and the estimated amount of work that's still remaining to complete during the sprint. So the burn down chart is also giving us our velocity of that sprint. This gives the stakeholders an early indication of how well the team is completing the necessary tasks that they need to do during the sprint, and gives them a good indication if they're going to complete them by the end of the sprint.